Continuing on the Bullet Heaven train because there's going to be an event for them in November and the press keys are flying, I decided to look at, well, Call of Duty Survivor? Wait, no, that's not right. It's yet another zombie survivor. There just happens to be a love of guns with a handful of the characters and a distinct military theme. Now, as far as what Survivor games this is most similar to, I would point you at Simadance or Battle Grid, since this is yet another party-based Survivor game. Thankfully, like Battle Grid, the game actually avoids any front-loaded grind, by making sure you start with pretty much what you need to beat a run, even if it is a bit more difficult than it would be after you've knocked out some of the achievements and unlocks. That said, you will need those unlocks as you progress into the second level, since the difficulty scaling can get pretty gnarly between the two. But that is sort of expected in the genre, and I have a feeling it will be tuned as this game continues to progress through early access at least. And get more stages, of course, since originally the first level had this same issue when it dropped, but they finally reached a solid balance after a handful of updates. Now, there is not much story to speak of in this, as it is sadly standard fare for most Bullet Heavens, and it's something I really wish some developers would address in their designs. But that does mean we get to spend more time focusing on the game's mechanics, and even the core gameplay loop itself, when we look at whether this title is something to pick up, or something to pass on. Now, since I mentioned progression, this game's setup is fairly straightforward, with 3 types of progression: unlocks, skill trees, and global boosts. You unlock more tiers of weapons and abilities for your characters by just killing zombies with them in the lead, which basically serves to allow you to take your starting weapons in each run and upgrade them further along their path, and also unlock special abilities beyond the starting 3 for each character. By doing so, it does make the runs easier in the long run, at least if you want to rely on your primary weapons rather than abilities. The other thing you unlock with characters is, well, just more characters. You initially only start with 3 available: a pistol-wielding soldier that can eventually get sniper rifles and machine guns, a tank that goes from shotguns into either miniguns or rockets, and an engineer cosplaying as Electro Boom and shocking the crap out of everything. Now, all of these get area of effect support skills that deal damage to crowds of zombies and play fairly similarly as a result, though their individual flavor boosts as the leader of the party do actually contribute a decent amount to how each run feels, so it's good to mess around with them and see which one works for you best. The second line of characters that you get through achievements, though, are more focused on specialized roles and buffing the rest of your group, whether that's healing with the medic, melee damage to deal with pesky enemies that get close with the ghost, or precision shots at a distance with the huntress. They're much more defined, and you will likely either love or hate each one because of this. Though I personally found the medic the hardest to unlock because I avoided damage most of my runs, and then got overwhelmed quickly at one point, meaning less health packs picked up on my part during a run. Now, since this is early access, it's also worth noting that abilities only go up to tier 2, and there's only 6 characters. But there are plans for taking skills to tier 3, as well as introducing at least 3 additional characters though. Since these are not out yet, there's no telling what they'll be for sure. Personally, I'm hoping for things that are a bit more esoteric, such as meta progression boosters and more control-oriented skills, which are seriously lacking from this game since for now, it mostly just focuses on making your units faster and stronger just to kill faster, rather than impeding the hordes at all. And as more interesting enemies get added in future stages, this would actually increase the potential dynamics in stage-to-stage gameplay, or when doing challenge runs of the stages themselves, such as when trying to claw your way through endless or hardcore mode. But for now, even though the second stage adds sandworms, spiders, and mummies to the formula, all we can do is focus on ramping that damage and boosting our kill speed to handle the threats. The last form of progression is the global boost tree that you get points for by picking up cash in level, requiring more and more for each level of an extra point. And if you don't get enough for that next level, the difference is not saved. So you better aim for getting enough for at least 1 point per run, which thankfully is not hard to do. This progression is a bit more generic with the usual cooldown, damage, pickup range, movement speed, etc. type upgrades, as well as thankfully including upgrades to rerolls, pickup bands, and such to let you shape your runs a little bit easier. And generally, your gameplay loop is focused around achieving goals in all 3 of these, with who you choose as a leader being how you unlock that class-specific weapon, how far you get determining your stage unlocks, and how much cash you grab determining your points for general skills at the end. Now, when fighting in the actual gameplay portions, there will be 2 types of drops that spawn as icons on the map: green for the SOS beacon, which is how you grow your party up to a cap of 3, or you can send them packing to get extra levels and money. And then there's the yellow, which is your item crates, basically giving you improved reload speed, defense, or even potatoes if you choose to grab it. And as you get more achievements, this crate gets more diverse options. This all compounds with the usual level up system during runs, where you kill, pick up experience, and build up your core skills and unlock your usual abilities, as well as level them up to make them stronger. And in case you're wondering, should you max out all of your available skills, it will start giving you the option of money or health recovery. So don't worry, even when you're doing the solo challenge, there will always be a reason to pick up experience. Now, where the game somewhat struggles is variety outside of the characters. Both the levels are large squares where the normal enemies will blindly rush at you, even if their abilities would normally give them reason not to, such as the spitter enemies or the boss that launches a flying swarm at you. They all will eventually wander into range. Now, that's not to say that the enemies lack diversity, though. You do have 2 types of exploding enemies, one that leaves gas behind that harms you and enemies, as well as one that does webs. You have fast and slow zombies, you have mummies that spawn in a circle around you, much like the flowers in Vampire Survivors, and you even have bosses with proper attack patterns such as charge, a circular swing, or a sandworm that will come charging out of the ground and do massive damage if you don't step to the side. It's just once you've encountered each of these and learned what to watch out for, there's really no variety in the actual layout itself. So the mummies, you learn to stay near the edge of the map since it limits their summons. For the spitters, you learn to dodge the little red circle, and up to the late stages of either map, you'll have plenty of room to dodge through the masses, though admittedly at the end, the swarm does get thick, and their health scaling makes it a lot harder to tear them down to get around. Now, reading back through what I've written, this sounds a lot more middling than I intended for the game. It's fun, it's cathartic, it feels good to play. It admittedly does have good music selection as well, though if you've been in the royalty-free spheres long enough, you've heard a bit of it before, with the main theme being Darkness is Coming by Kevin MacLeod. But I think the game is well on a path to something good overall, and I do have fun dropping in for a run from time to time. I think the main thing that makes it middling is that it's absolutely a small dose game, where it is best enjoyed in 1 or 2 run sessions and then played again a few days later, since binging it, like most Survivor games, will result in a bit of a burnout from redundant actions. A story, more complex levels, such as maybe having to navigate down roads of a city with obstructions like buildings or across a bridge, would absolutely bring this up to something a bit more bingeable. So what are your thoughts on the bullet heaven genre? Love it? Hate it? Think it's just another fad in the simplification of the roguelite genre? Mention it down below and check out this video on screen now to see more games in this genre.